Good morning. You see what I did there? I did the typical YouTuber thing. I pre-staged the camera, turned it on, and then acted like I was getting into the car for the first time. Wasn't that clever? Oh, it was so clever. I'm so smart. Welcome to day 10, I think.
That is not correct.
Honestly, I'm gonna go through in post and make sure that I get the days right, the day numbering. Gonna make sure that I get the days right in post. I'll have an accurate count that will have popped up before I pretended to get into the car. So we have 53% on the dial, and I'm gonna plug in Niagara Falls again because camp mode. So I think last night we ended around 60%, maybe a little bit lower than that. Honestly, I really should be better. I really should have been better about going back and writing things down, but at this point, it's last day. So it is 9:27 in the morning here. I actually got a really good night's sleep last night, and I think it's because it was the last one that we're gonna have in this car on this journey. So we'll get to Niagara Falls around 11. I think there's a supercharger right there on the Canadian side. So I should be able to charge right quick. Actually, let me plug that in. I'll just navigate to the supercharger. I could have swore there was a supercharger right on the Canadian, like right on the falls. I could have swore there was one. Maybe this isn't showing all of them. Yeah, I could have swore that there was a charger right there by the falls. Like right there at the falls. But maybe I'm just mistaken. Okay. I'll plug in the supercharger in New York State, Buffalo, New York. So, criticism of the system, I kind of wish that when you're searching for supercharger locations, so on this, I wish that it would do kind of like Google Maps does, and that it gives you, when you search a location in Google Maps or Apple Maps, it pops up like here in this little box, it would pop up like a estimated time of arrival, or like an estimated, length of time. I kind of wish that in this box, it would estimate, maybe next to or underneath this, say 106 miles, it would take 2 hours to get there. And then under that, it would say estimate you'd get there with 20% battery, right? Like I wish it would give you more information on this. Instead, it doesn't give you that information. So you have to physically hit that. And then you have to start navigating to it in order for it to actually calculate. So I wish that it would give you this information, 15%, 2 hours, 30 minutes, back on the original tab where you search for the superchargers. So I wish it would give you that information right here, because that would be really helpful, I think. Oh well. All right. So I know I can make it, so I'm not worried per se. It would just be nice to have that information ahead of time instead of having to actually start navigating to it first and then it popping up. All right, so we're gonna head into Niagara Falls, park on the Canadian side, take some pictures and some videos, because it's actually looking like it might be decent over there. We'll see. I mean, it'll take an hour and a half to get there, so Perhaps the weather shall lift. Noticing quite a bit of a vibration in the front end this morning. Like I felt it in the steering wheel as I was getting going. It seems to have gone away, and I've been looking at the tire pressure monitoring system, and it looks like they got down to like 36 psi last night, but it wasn't really that cold. So I think it might be time to maybe top them up when I see my next gas station or next service area. But I thought that was really strange. I will say overall, given that it's the last day, I think that... So, some backstory for me on the cars that I've owned. I talked about I own 2 Ioniq 5s, I've owned Chevy Bolt, I've owned Toyota Prius Prime, but I've also owned plenty of internal combustion engine vehicles. So I've owned, Forester, Subaru Forester, Impreza, Outback. I've owned a Volvo. It was a 2019 Volvo V60 cross country. I own 2 BMW X3s, a 2019 and a 2022, sorry. Kias, Fords. I've owned the whole gamut from mass market up to luxury and, electric. And I have to say, I don't know how previous Model Ys have ridden because I'd never really test driven a Model Y before. But I think that this is probably one of my favorite vehicles dynamically overall. I think that the turn-in is really sharp. I think that it handles great. I think the ride is good. I won't say the best ride. I think the best ride that I ever had was in the Volvo V60 cross country. I think that was in terms of like compliance and like just smoothness, I think that was the best ride. Closely followed by the X3, and I think that's probably where I would put this on the scale. This is very comparable to, from what I can remember at least, to my Go3 BMW X3s that I had. I think this, I really like those SUVs because I thought that they were very fun to drive. I thought that they handled really well. I thought that the ride, sort of comfort and handling balance was really well done, and I think that this is close. Some of the rougher roads, it's still a bit choppier than I would like for it to be. And there are some sections where, like small undulations in the road, I feel like you get a little bit of a bounce in the back end, but it's not like a soft bounce, it's like a harsh bounce almost in the back. And I do wish that the steering, I wish you could make it a little bit lighter. That has been a kind of an annoyance for me on this trip, is the fact that the steering, even in the chill mode, is not quite as light as I would want it to. Speaking of chill mode, hang on. So I said chill mode and I looked over, and before it would say chill mode up above the like accelerator indication bar, but it doesn't say chill mode. It's in chill mode, but it doesn't say it. All right, moving on. But yeah, I think that's probably the closest in terms of like ride, handling, and like balancing of it all that I can think of in terms of my experience is the BMW X3. And I really love that. I really love those cars. For me, the reason why I got rid of the X3 the first time was just because the first 2019 X3 that I had was having some major transmission issues, and BMW was fighting me on covering it under warranty. And they were saying, because I travel so much across the country, they were saying excessive wear and tear falls outside of the warranty. I'm not getting into it. And then the second one I got rid of when the pandemic really started to hit and gas prices went flying up and everything like that. I just didn't think that it was economical to keep it. So that's kind of where I would place this. Like I said, I do wish that it was a bit softer suspension wise, but I understand this is a heavier sort of mid-size premium SUV. That's also something else I want to talk about. I don't consider Teslas to be luxury. I don't know if that's a controversial statement. It reads like a controversial statement from what I've seen on the forums and everything. I don't consider Tesla to be a luxury brand. I would consider Tesla to be premium, and I think that is more of a function of the propulsion technology than it is the actual vehicles themselves. And the reason why I say that is because a few days... Ooh, Cadillac Lyriq. Okay. But yeah, I don't consider Tesla to be a luxury brand. I think that Tesla is premium, and they're premium because of the fact that it's an electric vehicle. Batteries are still expensive, and you can't have a vehicle that is essentially a little bit bigger than a Toyota RAV4 and charge $60,000 simply because of the battery. Like, the market wouldn't accept that. So you do have to, like, elevate things a little, and that's why I do say that it's premium, because there are more premium features in here, like the center console, the way that it has this nice stitching around it. You know, there's more soft touch materials, and like this, you know, this suede material on the doors. There's more soft touch injection molded plastic on the bottom of the dash, on the top of the dash. You know, you have the big panoramic sunroof. The back doors have the same material quality as the front doors. And then, at least in the 2023s, you get more carpeting. So, like, I have the carpeting in the doors. I have more carpeting along the door sills, and then on the back, right there by the seat, by the door. And then there's a lot more carpeting in the back trunk area. And then there's the additional, you get the autopilot system, which is pretty good. I have come to not want to use it as much, just because there's been a lot of phantom braking, and I've also experienced a lot of wonkiness in terms of swaying in the lanes, and it generally not being as reliable as I would want it to be. Maybe that's just because I'm in Canada. Maybe it's like a regional thing. But I definitely think that this is more of a premium vehicle, you know. I mean, even things like interior LED lighting, you know, LED matrix headlights, even though they're not, you know, the adaptive matrix headlights that they could potentially be. But then you look at things like there are still build quality issues. So along my dash here, as I look in my eye line, there's an undulation in the middle of the dash. Like, it's not perfectly straight across. There's some sort of like undulation wave in the injection molded plastic at the top of the dash. And then the same thing with my glove box cover. It doesn't sit smoothly along the metallic looking trim piece. It kind of, there's a bow in the middle of it that you can see. I actually look at it almost every day. I look at it every day when I'm driving, and it annoys me because I push on it, and I know it's supposed to sit flush, but it doesn't. It doesn't, and it annoys the ever-living you-know-what out of me. So there's still some quality interior issues. I've had some rattles from the door handles on the passenger side. You know, as I kind of look around along the headliner, there are some areas along the headliner where there are gaps between where they don't really quite fit together very well. And maybe I'll point them out when I get to Niagara Falls. And then little things on the outside, like the panel gaps along the back hatch, the way the taillights don't fit quite right, especially on the passenger side, especially the gap in my hood. So that's why, aside from the quality build issues, which I understand all manufacturers have these issues. I had a 2019 Ford Escape, and that thing was garbage in terms of build quality. I don't think these are luxury. And the reason why I don't think these are luxury is because, A, I don't think the interior materials match quite luxury standards. And I've seen discussions where people are like, oh, well, it's a minimalist interior, it's not luxury, it's not going to be luxurious. You can craft a minimalist interior and still have it be luxurious. I mean, Volvo's interiors are pretty minimalist, and those are very nice. It's about the materials, it's about the build quality, it's about the sense of initial quality when you get in, the way that the handles feel, the way that the doors close, you know, your driving position. I'm actually very comfortable. This is the first time that I've done this trip where I've made my stops primarily because of charging and because of potty breaks, and not because the seat is bothering me or because I'm uncomfortable. So very comfortable driving position. And yeah, a lot of premium materials and features, but I don't think Tesla is a luxury brand. I think that Tesla has been priced where they are because of the battery technology, and because, you know, when the batteries and the drive units and everything alone cost the company, say, $20,000, you know, add on top of that labor costs, manufacturing costs, development costs, building all these new, you know, giant factories and everything. You know, you almost have to charge $60,000 for these things in order for Tesla to be able to fund next generation development and profit margins. So, you know, even though this is at least when I bought it, you know, a $51,000 vehicle, now a $49,000 vehicle thanks to the price reductions a couple days ago, I wouldn't say that this is on the same level, $49,000, $50,000 as a BMW X3. I would still rather take the interior on the X3, the Q5. I test drove the new GLC a couple weeks ago. That was definitely, you know, I'd say, and it was a base model. I think it was like 48 or 49. I can't remember. But yeah, I definitely don't think that this at $50,000, I don't think the interior is quite where other vehicles are at $50,000. But then again, a BMW X3, you're not having to deal with the additional cost of a giant battery. So it's like, it's a hit or miss. It's a give and take type of situation. I understand the pricing. I understand the economies of scale and sort of material costs and everything. So I'm not upset about it. But it does bother me when I see people refer to Tesla as a luxury brand, because at least at this level, this is not luxury. This is premium. And I think there's an important distinction there. Some people may say tomatoes, tomatoes. I equate it to, if anybody remembers the old Ford lineup, you had Ford, Lincoln, Mercury. I kind of equate this to where, like, Mercury was trying to be sort of that in-between of, like, affordable premium. You had Ford as a mass market brand. You had Lincoln that was supposed to be, like, you know, world-beating, BMW, Cadillac, all that stuff. And then you had Mercury in the middle that was kind of like 30s, 40s, low 50s, depending on what vehicle you got. And I kind of equate Tesla to that. As a sidebar, I think that if you look at the broader automotive landscape over the last 15 years and all of the brands that have disappeared from North America, you have Mercury, you have Pontiac, you have Oldsmobile, you know, just within the big three. I know that it is expensive to launch a new brand or to relaunch a brand, but I really see a missed opportunity, especially for GM and Ford, to not relaunch some of their brands that have caught the axe over the years as electric vehicle exclusive brands. I don't know how that would work with dealer networks. I'm not a lawyer, but I kind of feel like there is a way that they could have relaunched, specifically Ford. There has to have been a way that they could relaunch Mercury as a direct-to-consumer brand. I don't know if Mercury is still mentioned in the dealer contracts or whatever, but I feel like there was a missed opportunity for Ford and GM to launch an electric exclusive brand, Mercury, for Ford. Have it direct to consumer, you know, Tesla style, you know, whatever. Maybe in some states you partner with certain dealer networks. I don't know exactly how that works. It seemed very complicated and very unnecessary. And I think that it would have given them a fresh start and also an exclusive electric brand that they could have priced right in that premium market to go directly against Tesla, and that could have been like their entry into it and potentially even like working to scale out those vehicles. So launch a Mercury Mariner and, you know, launch a next generation Mercury Mariner and Sable or Milan, and have that be Model Y and Model 3 competitors and scale them, you know? What do I know? Anyways, rant aside, I love this thing. Susitna has been fantastic this entire trip. Little frustrations here or there. Every time the windshield wipers activate and it's dry outside or they go too fast, I'm like yelling at it. Or like anytime it tells me to put my hands on the wheel and I'm doing the auto steer and my hands are like this and I'm like, I'm literally steering. I get a little upset, but you know. I will say, Project Juniper is coming. And now that I have a Tesla, I'm sort of like, I'm good. I don't want another car. But I will say the last couple days that I've been further south and it's been in the 60s outside, my temperature cap is like 70, 75 degrees. That's when I stop feeling comfortable. And I would have loved to have had ventilated seats. I know that's coming on Juniper because we just got it on Highland. And I do actually like the updated interior in Highland, so I'm kind of hoping that comes to Juniper, the Model Y refresh. The only issue that I have is I need stocks. I don't like the touch sensitive buttons on the steering wheel. It's part of the reason why I didn't get a BMW. It's one of the reasons why I haven't gotten a Mercedes, is because I don't like the touch scroll things on the Mercedes steering wheels. And I need my stocks. I like having manual windshield wiper button on the left. I like having manual, stocks turn signals. I know it's all electronic, so it doesn't really matter, but I still like having my physical gear shifter. I don't want to do the swipe on the screen. I don't like that. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe Tesla will listen to feedback, or they won't. Who knows? They don't have a PR department in North America. So, all right, I'm gonna stop ranting. Get back to the road. I'll see you in a bit. All right, so we have arrived here in Niagara Falls, and it's actually a beautiful day here today. I'm actually very excited to get some videos, but they have a lot of chargers here for electric vehicles. I mean, you do have to pay for it. It's not free. Well, I guess you have to pay to park. You don't have to pay to charge once you're in. But I'm gonna get this J1772 hooked up and gonna wander down to the falls. I'll be here for a few hours. Won't be too bad. Let's plug this in and see what this is giving me in terms of charging, because I want to see how much we can get here. All right. Okay, so it's saying 6 hours until we hit 70%. So I'm gonna assume it's saying 5 kilowatts. Here, hang on. Oh, heck yeah, 7 kilowatts. Yeah, so I'll probably sit here I'll probably be here for like an hour and a half, 2 hours wandering around. And then, depending on how much charge we get, I might actually be able to just blow right past Buffalo and hit up the next supercharger a little bit further east, which would be my preference. But you can see the falls over there, just briefly, so let's get going. I'm excited. I'm gonna take this little bridge. We got a little bridge over there. I haven't been here in a while. This is great. It's a beautiful day. Well, that was actually pretty fantastic. I'm very glad that I made that stop. So this is always one of my favorite places to come. I think it's beautiful, and I actually happen to think it's better. I actually happen to think it's better in the wintertime. One, because there's like no one here, and two, I think it's really beautiful when you have the ice that's kind of formed over the top part of the falls, or like on the bottom part of the falls. I think it's really pretty. I came out here back in 2017 with somebody that I was dating at the time, and we stayed in, actually I think it was the Embassy Suites right up ahead of us, or maybe it was the Marriott, I can't remember, but we had one of the top floor rooms so we could actually see the falls as we were sleeping, and it was a really amazing experience. Anyway, personal stories aside, so we are headed to the Waterloo Supercharger, where I was actually able to get up to 54% in the 3-ish hours that I was sitting there. In the 4-ish hours the car was there, I was able to get pretty decent charge. So we're gonna head out to the Waterloo Supercharger, 18%. GPS is saying we'll get to Western Massachusetts around 1 o'clock. I'm hoping to beat that a little bit if I can. I have it set to avoid tolls, so I don't actually know the route that it's gonna take me. I don't wanna take the New York State Thruway and the Massachusetts Turnpike because those are toll roads. So I'm actually really curious to see what back roads it has me on. Maybe if they're the correct type of back roads, then we can save a little bit of time by driving in an expeditious fashion. So we'll get across the border, get to Waterloo, and yeah, check in with you. Hope you enjoyed the footage. That was pretty special. A lot of people here, but pretty special place. We are here in Waterloo, New York. Waterloo, New York. Sorry about the lack of running footage. I was listening to some YouTube videos and some podcasts on YouTube, and I forgot to hit the pause button and put on the videos so I could show some running footage. But basically, this leg of the trip, I'm completely avoiding Interstate 90 because from here, the rest of the way to Massachusetts, it's basically all tolls. So I have directed the director here to not route me via any tolls, but instead it's taking me on really nice, like, scenic country back roads, which I'm very much enjoying. So we're at 14%. We traveled 136 miles on that charge, 221 watt hours per mile. This overall average has been amazing, 258 watt hours per mile. I am so happy with how efficient things have been. But we are starting a software update, so I'm gonna get this plugged in before that actually starts, because I don't know if I can start that once it's actually started. So, let's get this done. Okay, that's it. All right. Let's see. Starting to charge. Okay, and it's still gonna update. Okay, cool. Unable to start software update because the vehicle is supercharging. Oh, must not be supercharging during a software update. Finish charging, exit the charging stall, and retry the update. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I thought you could supercharge and update. Well, that's my mistake. Lessons learned. All right, so this is a version 2, I believe, that we're at. And I was kind of frustrated because these guys aren't really parked to optimize charging here. So this guy's on basically 1 and 2. I'm on 3 and 4. And then this guy next to me is 5, 6, and then 7 and 8 over there. And because of how everyone was spaced here, I got the last spot that isn't sharing with someone, so I'm kind of grateful for that. So I'm at 140 kilowatts. So I'm going to charge up to 70%, and we're here at a casino. So I'm going to run in, try to use the bathroom, do a little walking around. I guess I'll just do the software update tomorrow, since the car will be sitting most of the day anyway. And then once this hits 70%, we'll be on our way. Something that I did also notice while we were driving, or while I was driving, I suppose, this gray texture here has started to form like micro scratches that you can't really see, but you can kind of see in certain light. So I think I might go online when I get home and order. They make different appliques that go over this. They make like actually a really nice wood veneer one from Hills that goes over both the center console here, and then you can also get it for the dash. I'm not going to get it for the dash because I actually don't mind the white so much anymore, but I definitely think I'm going to get the wood veneer for down here, just because I think over time this is going to start to look worse and worse. And I actually don't think I'm going to keep this, just because obviously if I get the wood for this part and this part, this is going to stick out like a sore thumb. I got this mostly because I had the Lightning and the USB-C cable, but since I have the new iPhone, which is USB-C, I don't really see the point in keeping that necessarily. I don't know, maybe I'll see if I can find another one of these that's like a wood or something, or maybe that would be kind of cool with like the wood on either side and then that in the middle. I don't know. We'll see. Let me run in, use the bathroom, and then yeah, once we hit 70, we'll head out. We have charged up to 80%. Oh no. Oh, okay. So we've charged up to 80% because the GPS wants me to go to the supercharger in Lee, Massachusetts. So that'll be our last supercharger stop on this journey. And I am very much ready for that to be the case. So this supercharger station is 222 miles away from where we are at here in the town where we currently are. I apologize I didn't show you me unplugging it from the butt. I made some changes. I kind of rearranged a few things in here while I was there and cleaned out my earring too, because I want to make sure it's nice and clean. Because when I get home, I want to start pulling stuff out. And since I'm not going to get home till after midnight, I wanted to make it as easy as possible to at least get like the essentials before I go to bed tonight. You know, take a shower and all that stuff. So we are rolling out, going to the Lee supercharger. Like I said, 222 miles away. Supposed to get there with around 7% battery. It makes me a little uncomfortable, just a tiny little bit uncomfortable being that low. And especially being on the Mass Pike and the New York State Thruway, knowing how fast everyone goes. But that just means that I'll just set the cruise control to 64 and just cruise the entire time. So I will see you in Lee. Perhaps I'll jump in with some thoughts if I have any along the way. Maybe not. We'll see. But yeah, thank you for going on this journey with me. I very much appreciate it. Okay. Oh my goodness. Alright, so there have been a change. So we're going to be stopping off at the supercharger in Guilderland, New York, because apparently the other charger was just slightly ever much too far. So we'll be stopping there in about 27 minutes, getting there with 20% charge. So I'll probably have 2 more charging stops, not just one, because I'll probably stop off at the supercharger in Hadley, Massachusetts for a few minutes just to top off before I go home. So that way I have charge to get around tomorrow to run my errands. So we'll stop in 27 minutes, get there, 20% stated charge. I also looked down and realized that we've crossed 5,000 miles. We've traveled 5,000 miles in 10 days. That's absolutely insane. 5,000 miles. And we still have probably another 150 to 200 to go. Whew! This has been something. Almost done though. Just a little bit longer. Welcome to Guilderland, New York. 19%. 177 miles traveled. Not too shabby, mileage efficiency wise. So we're gonna sit here. I'm gonna charge up to 70%. Let me change that setting down from 80 to 70. Go 70. All right, 70. So I am only 99 miles away from the exit in Northampton, Massachusetts off of Interstate 91. So I'm gonna, I actually do have a decision here to make because I can either just sit here for 10 minutes get the charge I need, and then when I get to the supercharger right off the highway in Northampton, get there and plug in, or I can just go straight home. What should I do? I guess it depends if I want to sit here. You know what? Let's just do what it recommends. Let's just sit here for 10 minutes, get the charge I need, and then continue on. There's no point in sitting here any longer than I absolutely have to. And then I'll just top off when I get to Northampton. I only live 10 minutes from the supercharger in Northampton, so that'll actually give me some time to go through, do a final kind of tabulation on the mileage and everything, and then, so, cool. All right, 10 minutes, and then we'll head out. I do like these mall locations because I don't, like, shockingly, I don't actually have to use the bathroom or anything, but it is still kind of nice that some of these places are at malls where you have like Dave & Buster's and you have movie theaters and stuff, so that if you wanted to go in and do some shopping or even go see a movie or something, you absolutely could do that. Seen a lot on this trip, a lot of places, a lot of environments, a lot of different chargers, but still just wicked, stupid easy. Very nice. Look at this windshield. This has been a consistent battle every time I stop. I don't know if I'm just not running the air conditioner enough. I don't know. So we got up to 56%. I was kind of distracted because I was looking at the configurations on the Rivian website for the R1S. I kind of want a quad motor with the large battery pack, but that's also $90,000, and I don't have $90,000. I mean, unless enough people watch these videos, I guess, but I don't think you can make that much money on YouTube. Can you? Can you? A pipe dream for now. But I wouldn't buy the R1S though. So I do actually, I do really like the R1S, and I really do like the interiors on the Rivians, but I wouldn't touch another vehicle, especially after this road trip, that doesn't have the NACS adapter. There's no way that I would buy another CCS vehicle, especially after this road trip, because once we hit those Tesla superchargers, like, things really sped up. And even honestly, like, even the chargers, the CCS combo chargers where I had to use the adapter weren't that bad. I mean, the interface here is amazing, and there's been really no stress. Charging wise, there's been no stress in terms of the physical charging itself. Yes, in terms of timing, and yes, in terms of like spacing things out, I guess. But in terms of the actual charging, no issues at all. And that kind of surprises me. Now, I will preface that by saying no stress in terms of charging when it comes to actual chargers. There were still the hiccups at the campgrounds, but whatever. So yeah, I need enough people to watch these videos so I can buy a Rivian. But in like a year and a half, when they start coming natively with the NACS adapter, or the NACS plug. All right, let's get unplugged here, stop charge, unlock. Only $11. Another, I guess, one of the benefits of the fact that I'm traveling typically later into the day is the fact that the charging has been pretty cheap for most of this journey. Well, free through BC and the Yukon, pretty cheap in the afternoons. So only $10.50 for that charger, according to my Apple Card. All right, I need to get this windshield defogged. Roll down these windows, blast the air conditioner and the heater for a few minutes. Don't need y'all seeing my pin. I hope I haven't shown that at all this entire trip. All right, so we got 99 miles to go until we get to Northampton. Honestly, I don't even really need that, but I'm gonna keep it up just in case for posterity's sake. So, gonna wait for my windshield to defog, annoyingly. Turn up the temperature and roll the windows down. Come on. This is ridiculous. So the windshield finally defogged. I'm kind of frustrated with myself that I didn't at some point stop and try to get some like anti-fogging stuff, because this has been a persistent issue this entire trip where like I fight with it while I'm driving and I get out of control, but then I stop the charge and it just, all the windows up in smog, up in fog, up in not being able to see out or anything. It's very frustrating. Maybe tomorrow, planning on like fully waxing and cleaning this thing out tomorrow. So Sisitna, I shouldn't say this thing. Sisitna, he has a name. Sisitna. So, getting on to 90 now. We'll be in... Oh, if I want to get in the right lane. Alright, I'm going to say this too. I'm used to using Apple Maps. A lot of people over the years have hated on Apple Maps. I think Apple Maps have gotten to a point where they're at least equivalent to Google Maps. Probably a controversial take, probably a hot topic type of conversation. Not interested in debating anyone. Just my personal perspective. I've always used Apple Maps as long as I've had Apple devices. I've had an iPhone since iPhone 8, I believe. So it's been a while. This native navigation system I have found is not good at giving me the same level of heads up of turns, like turn-by-turn directions that I've experienced with Apple Maps. It doesn't... The thing that I think helps me the most with Apple Maps is as you're getting to, and anyone that utilizes, I think Google does the same thing, as you're approaching an intersection, so let's say you're merging from I-90 onto I-91, right? You'll get a graphic that'll show up on the screen that'll show you which lanes to be in. So it'll say, you know, get to these 2 lanes, and it'll show the lanes kind of like in like a 3D kind of rendering going off into the distance. This doesn't do anything like that. So it won't show me like individual lanes on the map. It'll just show me like the gray line for the highway or for the street, but then it'll show a lot of instances, it'll show like kind of it won't get into enough detail that it will show you that there's another like spur coming off of the highway. And I experience this a lot, especially in Calgary and a lot of Canadian cities, and even out in Minneapolis, where it wasn't showing me enough detail or zooming in enough to show me that it was the spur that I was supposed to get off on. So I ended up missing the turnoff. So I had to go up a couple miles and like flip around a bunch of cloverleaf intersections and make my way back to that original exit. I really hope that that's something that Tesla works on, is getting to that point where if you're not going, and this is a major point, if you're not going to offer Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, or at the very least offer some sort of Apple Maps or Google Maps integration in the navigation, then they need to get to that same level of detail that Apple Maps and Google Maps shows you when you're navigating utilizing those platforms. Because I don't think that this is adequate, especially if you really are going through places that you've never gone through before. And with this trip, I've definitely gone through places that I've never gone through before. Because like I mentioned a few days ago, I've done this trip. This is my 6th round trip of going from East Coast to Alaska and back. And I can do the trip with no navigation. I've done it several times. Actually, going up, I didn't use any navigation to go up because I know the route, I know how to get there. But because this trip, I chose to go to Banff, I chose to go to Calgary, and then I went up to Red Deer, and I came down, and then I went back again. Because the route was different this time, there were a lot of cities and a lot of towns that I had never been in before. So having that additional extra detail to really show you, I think would be beneficial. So like for example, in this intersection, I have been through this intersection before. I frequent Albany, I frequent this area throughout the year, at least when I'm on the East Coast. So it's showing you, or at least it was showing, the 3 arrows to the left to stay to these 3 merging lanes onto I-90, and then it was showing the two grayed out lanes going off to the right. That, if you are familiar with an area, that may be enough. And like for example, it popped up again to show you, okay, left 2 lanes, and then you have the right lanes that kind of come off. And I know that those 2 right lanes that pair off to the right, you get in the lane, you pair off, and then it actually like separates fully from the highway. But there were a lot of instances in the Midwest and up in Canada where it wasn't giving you, and where those 2 lane markers weren't enough, because it was just And if you looked at the map, it was a little spur road, or like a spur of the highway that you have to get off on. And that spur would go up a mile or 2 miles, and then you would get off the spur. But because it's not detailed enough on the map, I wasn't really sure what it was showing me or what it was telling me to do. So I think having more detailed graphics on this GPS navigation system would really be beneficial. Just my take. Anyways, hope my opinions haven't been too annoying, but these are the observations that you make over 5,000 miles in 10 days. Oh gosh. See you in Massachusetts. Welcome to Hadley, Massachusetts. Tesla supercharger stop here. 101 miles. Look at that. 5,150 miles. Whew. Breathe a sigh of relief. So I'm just gonna roll up here real quick, plug in for a few minutes just so that I have extra charge for tomorrow, because I got a bunch of errands I gotta run for tomorrow. So for the last time this trip, let's get this supercharging going just for a few minutes, just so I have enough charge to do some things tomorrow. I can plug in when I get to work on Monday. This sweatshirt has a tag. I can't seem to get it out of it. It's very frustrating. Whatever. So this Tesla supercharger was put in, I think, like 3 years ago, and I think I may have talked about it, but I don't remember. I had this year in 2023, I bought my second Ioniq 5. It was an SEL all-wheel drive, and I paid $53,000 for it. I think it was like 53, 54. But I had always wanted a Tesla, and I think I may have talked about this already, but I'll talk about it again. Or if I catch it in post, I'll just take this whole thing out, and I'm basically talking to myself at that point through the computer, so whatever. But I had always wanted a Tesla, and I test drove a Model 3 when I lived in California, fell in love with it. And did I test drive a Model Y? I think I did actually test drive a Model Y out in Boston a few years ago. But I'd always wanted a Model Y, but it was always just beyond the reach for me financially. Like, it was just at that point where I either couldn't figure out the financing quite right, or I didn't quite have enough to put down, or trade-in value. There was always something that was keeping me from a Tesla, and I knew that I had always wanted one. And the frustrating thing about my last Ioniq 5 that I had was I took delivery of it, no joke, 4 days before the price drops on the Model 3 and the Model Y. The price drops that took the Model Y long range down into the low 50s. I took delivery of my Ioniq 5 4 days before that happened. And I remember waking up, reading the news on Inside EVs, thinking to myself, what the heck? Like, I was so upset because I tried to trade my first Ioniq 5 in for a Model Y, but the trade-in value didn't come back as high as I needed it to, and I didn't have the down payment at the time. So I was so frustrated. But when I found out and the contract for my Alaska job was finalized in April, I decided, instead of trying to drive the Ioniq 5 up to Alaska, which I was considering doing a video series on that, I had such a bad experience taking the Ioniq 5 just down to Florida and back up the East Coast using Electrify America. Like, I don't think I experienced charging above 100 kilowatts on that drive, and I knew that it was going to be difficult because the further north you go, more difficult charging becomes. And also, I just, in my gut, I didn't think that the Hyundai would be reliable enough, and my gut ended up being correct because right when I started the process of trying to trade it in back in April of this year, one of the coolant pumps went down in it, and it sat at the dealership for a month as the part had to come in special order from South Korea. It was this whole thing. There were other issues with it while I was at the dealership. It turned into a whole thing where I almost said screw it and basically was trying to sell it back to the dealership and almost got a Genesis G70 because I was like right up against that time when I knew I needed to leave. And it was actually almost getting to a point where I wouldn't have had time to drive up, where I almost had to fly up and just not have a car for the summer. So luckily it got fixed and I was able to take it and trade it in for the Forester like I think it was like 2 weeks before I left to drive to Alaska. But moral of the story is I've owned a lot of different cars over the years, and I've always wanted a Tesla. And when they put this supercharger here in Hadley in, I used to drive, this is Route 9, this major route out here. I used to drive this every day. And I would look over and I'd see the Teslas plugged in, and there'd be that small part of me that would get like really jealous, and small part of me that would like really want to try again to get a Tesla, but I just could never make it work. So it's kind of surreal to like be back here in a Tesla. It's also kind of wild that like all the price drops and all the discounts worked out to where I took delivery of it in Alaska and then had to drive it back instead of taking delivery of it here. But then there's also that thing of like, Tesla just dropped prices a couple days ago again on the 3 and the Y. So it's like, oh, well, you know, if I would have just waited until I got back to Massachusetts, and I could have been paying less, and I wouldn't have had to have paid the dealer. I wouldn't have had to have paid the direct fee and everything like that. But honestly, like the amount of money that I saved driving this versus internal combustion engine vehicle. I mean, a lot of the places that I didn't even talk about this while the drive was going on, but there were a lot of places in Canada where like the gas was $6-7 equivalent a gallon, or some of the places even in the lower 48 where gas was $5 a gallon, $4 or $5 a gallon, and that's insane. Gas prices weren't even that high when I left here back in May. So, and I know for a fact that trip up to Alaska in my Forester that I had, gosh, I want to say it was at least $1,200 in gas alone, just in gas to get up there. That doesn't count anything, any of the other costs, like the flat tire that I got. That doesn't include any of the other costs. Like, it's kind of nice to be here. So, I think I'm gonna take this time to thank, at least from my car, whoever's watching. Thank you. This has been an incredible journey. I'm very happy to be back. So I'm gonna do some editing in post, do some recording in post. I'll post the final mileage. I'll post like a picture of it, the actual final mileage of when I get to my apartment. It's only about 5 miles from here now. A lot to unpack from this trip. A lot of video to go through. And I think I'm gonna split it up into 4 or 5 parts. But by the time you get to this point, you'll be watching part 4 anyway. It's kind of, oh man, this whole video thing is weird. But thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it, and who knows, maybe I'll make more content like this in the future. I do a lot of road trips, but This is definitely the wildest one that I do over the course of a year. So, yeah. Thanks. Alright, just for posterity's sake, I'm gonna show the last supercharging event of this drive. Stop that charging, unlock that charge port, and get this bad boy unlocked. Unlocked. Close that butthole, boy. There he goes to sit now. And then, here we go. Alright, last supercharging session of this trip is done. Very nice. That's what we like to see. Nope. I'm not going to show anyone that code. Alright. Well, last few miles. Last few miles.